Hi! For this last video, here's my face, we'll be doing braising. Braising is generally something that is often considered pretty advanced. However, braising is actually not that hard. What you want to do is obviously have a little bit of either a non-stick pan or a little bit of oil within the pan for your little steak or whatever you decide to braise. Generally, people like braising steak because it really makes it a good, nice consistency, a good texture, good flavor. It's very rich that way. So this braising technique, here's the steak, you put it in and brown the sides of the steak. It doesn't necessarily need to be fully cooked, and you don't really want that, actually, because what you want, where this steak gets its flavor is after you put in all of the other liquids. Initially, you started out as a dry heat. This is a combination cooking method. Starting it out as a dry heat will create that browned consistency around the edges. It'll make it a lot more caramelized afterwards for having this browned consistency. So you can use a spoon, and you generally, beforehand, you want to use spatula or tongs to pick up this steak, braise it, brown the sides, basically every inch of this steak that you would want to do. And then afterwards, you can put in your wine, broth, water, whatever you decide, your rosemary, whatever. It just depends on what spices, how you want to braise it. You could put in different types of things. Generally, you put in non-fresh spices, which is just spices that have dried. It could be totally whole spices, it doesn't matter. But you put in these spices, maybe a sprig of rosemary, as I said. Put that wine in, that broth, and put it at the simmer again. Sometimes people cap it to make sure that it has that complete overall flavor. You want to make sure that all of the sauce and stuff like that, what would be considered now a gravy, is poured over that steak, which you would scoop it up with a non-slotted spoon. Do not use a slotted spoon for this, even though all I have is a slotted spoon. You would scoop it up, pour it on that steak, or you could flip it over with that spatula or tong set. Generally, braising will provide a very deep flavor, and overall it will provide a nice way to cook a steak without having way too much effort for choosing what heat you want to put it at. Generally, it provides a very similar outcome most times, as long as you brown it on the outside and cook it thoroughly on the inside, depending on what steak it is. For certain steaks, you want to fully have that cooked, depending on where the steak is from or what the type of animal it is. Because you could totally have a disease from an elk steak, antelope steak, something like that, which wild hunters have, and it's pretty common in the area here. So having wild elk steaks, lamb steaks, such like that, will have diseases in them, and you want to have them fully cooked. Overall, braising will provide a great example for cooking with both heat and wet cooking, dry and wet cooking. And will provide a good opportunity to have that similar gravy-like consistency, depending on how far that you simmer down that broth and that wine, or whatever you decide to use for this steak. Generally, it'll taste pretty good. So hopefully that clears up what braising is. Thanks.